there's been this belief in South Africa that if you're going to beat the All Blacks in New Zealand, you've got to score 35 odd points, because the All Blacks average, I think, is 33 or 34 in their home games.
Where are the All Blacks vulnerable? It's under the high ball and it's the kicks. And Argentina did the most simple thing, didn't they? And so if you're going into this test match as any other coach, surely that would be the first thing you'd be looking at.
I mean, these are the type of games all these coaches want to be involved in, and they want to win these ones.
DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Springboks versus All Blacks. We began our build-up yesterday. We thought, why not? Let's go more than a week in advance. It's what everyone's talking about. It is the single biggest rugby fixture, I think, to face the All Blacks since the 2023 quarterfinal against France. It means so much to both countries. And our good mate, Brenden Nel, who's got his own YouTube channel, and that's Nel, N-E-L, and Brenden with an E and an N at the end. He joins us again out of South Africa. Welcome, mate.
Well, thanks, buddy. Thanks for spelling my name right. Most people get it wrong.
Forgive me, but it is early morning over here, so if I have a sip of a cup of tea and a little biscuit, I hope you don't mind. That's breakfast.
Well, I just put a glass of wine down, so that's a bit of a difference here late at night. Yeah. So,
Brenden, you know, we can talk about a million different things around this game, and we will over the next 7 days. And that's, you know, the beauty of doing this as a job, and the beauty when you look forward to a fixture like this. I'm going to start with this. Who needs this win more, you or us?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I think there's some bruised egos on both sides of the last couple of weeks. And maybe that's added to the intrigue of this game. I think we were going to build up to it anyway, and I think it was going to be one of those fixtures, a heavyweight fixture. But just the fact that both sides look a bit vulnerable in ways, and has made it a bit more intriguing. I think still this is going to be where the Rugby Championship's probably going to be won or lost in these next two games here. But both sides, I mean, the Springboks certainly, I think, when I say they were bruised egos, a lot of them from that Ellis Park game. And while it was the strangest thing for me, because after that press conference in Cape Town after they won, Rassie almost looked like he was just happy to win, which is not something we know from the Springboks in the last couple of years under Rassie Erasmus. They're quite a confident bunch. They know what they're doing, and they front up quite often. So and on the All Blacks side, I mean, they to us, watching from afar. They turn it on at times, and then you get a time like last week where I thought the Pumas bullied them quite badly.
Yeah. And
it's just strange because, it almost feels like. And I spoke to one of your guests this week as well, Jamie Wall, the other day as well. And I said to him as well, I said, it feels like Scott Robertson hasn't really sort of taken control of that role, and maybe is a bit vulnerable in his own position. And that's a strange thing for us to see in All Black coach, because they've normally, the days of John Hart, Graham Henry, those type of guys, they were supremely confident. And it just, I don't know, maybe it's his personality, but it comes across like he's a bit vulnerable at the moment.
A lot to talk about just from that first answer. I've written a couple of things down. I want to get back to the vulnerability thing. But are we still 1 and 2 in the world? Because before the Rugby Championship started, if you asked either of us, we're saying this is the heavyweight championship. These are the two best teams in the world. The Lions came down. The Lions, okay, can have a claim to that as well. But what has happened here? Have our teams both come down a bit? Have the others come up a bit? Has it evened itself out a bit more than, say, if you'd asked this same question a fortnight ago?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's difficult for me to answer, obviously, from the All Black perspective, but from a Springboks perspective, I think what's probably happened is Rassie's experimented a lot. He's changed teams around a lot, and that sort of the cohesion that's normally there with the Springbok team wasn't there in that first game against the against the Wallabies, and it's come back and it hurt them quite badly. I think it's not so much the fact that they lost against the Wallabies; it was the way they lost and the way they conceded those last 3 tries in that second half. That was a real body blow to them, and there was a lot of talk, which we've heard subsequently, that the confidence took a big knock there. Because they've been getting away with it, and I say getting away with it. They've made changes, they've taken risks, and they've always seemed to find a way of winning. And for this team, which won 2 World Cups, to now suddenly get almost like sucker punched and lose by 16 points at Ellis Park, and I think just the public reaction, as you can imagine, was huge after that loss. So the the Boks are vulnerable in that way, because I think we've all been around sporting teams for a long time to know that if it goes south, it can go south very quickly. And Rassie does, and I think I said it to you last time, he does walk on water in South Africa. He's, public loves him. They sing that the song the whole time in the stadiums. He's in your head, and with rightly so, he's earned that right. But there is a sort of sense that he's caught in two worlds at the moment, where his older players are maybe slowing down a bit, maybe not reacting as well as they should, and the bomb squad as well. And some of his experiments haven't worked out as well as they would, and some of the youngsters just aren't quite making that step up just quickly enough. And I sort of almost get the feeling that sometimes it's also the same watching the All Blacks against the Pumas in Buenos Aires. It was like the same there. There's some extremely talented players, but you just get the feeling they may be 5 or 10 tests just short of hitting where they need to hit.
Can we just say, and I need to make this clear and keep reiterating this point as well, and we love all the feedback, all the engagement, all the comments. Neither myself nor Brenden are in any way undermining or devaluing the efforts of Australia or Argentina. What you said there made it very clear. It's not the fact we lost to Argentina, it's the way we lost, and the ineptitude and the mistakes and the inability to change game plan and all of these. And so it leaves both teams approaching this test with a hell of a lot of questions. If this was 2 weeks ago and we started the Rugby Championship, we'd both be thinking about our strengths. We're probably talking a little bit more right now about our weaknesses and, as you said, the vulnerabilities.
Yeah, and I think there's one stat that's sort of from this past weekend, and even though the Springboks won, that lifts it up. The Springboks had 30 missed tackles. I think the All Blacks had 40 missed tackles.
Yeah.
Now, when in the weekend of international rugby would you ever see a stat like that again? And when the Springboks have lost, and obviously ever since Rassie's taken over, not talking about the dark days of Alistair Coetzee and what happened in his time, but ever since Rassie's taken over, when they've lost to Ireland with a last-minute drop goal. They're losing sort of very close games the whole time. They haven't really been soundly beaten. And the fact that this team with double world champions and a lot of talent in that team couldn't find a way out of that, and just nothing they seem to do worked, I think has worried a lot of people. So, and there's 30 missed tackles is a big thing. Look, they don't have Jacques Nienaber anymore. We all know how good he is in defense, how he helped Leinster win the URC. To me, that's the big missing thing. Jerry Flannery is a great guy. He's only been in the job a year now, so our defense coaches take a lot of flack. But there's something missing there, and maybe it's just maybe it'll come right by next week. But I think as a Springbok fan and for fans around South Africa, that's a big worrying point at the moment.
What kind of side is he going to select, do you think? Is it going to be more Cape Townish and more tactically Cape Townish?
It's a difficult one as well, because it certainly looks that way from the squad he's picked. That certainly looks like he's going to go in with Andre Pollard, so all the tried and tested. Siya Kolisi,
that name. As soon as you say that name, Brenden, the All Black fans, our hearts just sink. We know he's going to kick 5 out of 5 or 6 out of 6 against us. You just know it.
There's a thing. I mean, from I think when Heineke Meyer was Springbok coach, there's been this belief in South Africa that if you're going to beat the All Blacks in New Zealand, you've got to score 35 odd points, because the All Blacks average, I think, is 33 or 34 in their home games. So you have to score tries as well. That old way of Springboks, kicking up in the air and bullying you with their forwards isn't going to win a game, and especially I don't think at Eden Park, given the history there as well. But so I think there is some scope for some youngsters there. Sasha Feinberg, Mngomezulu will come into play. I think as well on the one wing, because Kurt Lawrence is out. There's a space open there. It's interesting to see what he'll do at full back, because does he go with Willie Leroux, who's 100 tests, or does he go with Apelele Fassi, who's very exciting, but was caught out of position a couple of times against Australia. So there's a lot of those type of questions. I think mostly 90% of the side's probably going to be the same one that played in the World Cup final. I'd be very surprised if it isn't. I'd hope for one or two almost maverick choices, and I think Rassie's the type of guy who probably will do something like that. But I sort of wonder if to me, the biggest question is, because the bomb squad hasn't fired this season really, is he going to go with a 7-1? Is he going to go or 6-2 with Andre Estes and on the bench who can double up as a forward? I think that's going to be quite interesting, because I think the bomb squad there is going to be crucial at Eden Park.
Also, let's just correct this. The original bomb squad was Corey Jane, Israel Dagg, and Richard Kahui in 2011. Okay, so we actually invented that term, all right? And there's a real clamour here at the moment as to we need that back, because when you talk about vulnerability, which you did right at the very start, if you had to say right now, where are the All Blacks vulnerable? It's under the high ball and it's the kicks. And Argentina did the most simple thing, didn't they? And so if you're going into this test match as any other coach, surely that would be the first thing you'd be looking at. Okay, well, Andre, when you get that ball, whack it high, man, and let's see whether they've actually been practicing all week or not.
Yeah, I think back to, that was in 2009, 2010, that Springbok team that beat the Lions. That was the way they beat the All Blacks 3 times in one season that year, because they literally turned the All Black wingers around. I think Joe Rokokoko and those, and I can't remember who the other winger was, but they turned them around. Yeah, and they turned them around and caught them, with the aerial bombs. And I think we're going to see a lot of that at Eden Park. I hope not just that, because I think the Springbok side is capable of playing a lot better rugby than that. But seeing the All Blacks vulnerabilities, I wouldn't be surprised if Rassie works on that. But knowing Rassie, he's going to have a trick or two up his sleeve as well. Probably something we haven't seen already. And it's going to be interesting to see what he comes up with.
Okay, I don't think he's going to start with the kickoff to get the scrum, and I'm not sure we're going to see the line out in the middle of back play either. Do you think either of those two are actually going to come out at Eden Park?
Nah, I think those are buried now. I think it was actually quite sad for me in that Ellis Park game to see 11 points behind the Wallabies to try and do that line out in the middle of the field. It just felt a bit, just old. It didn't really feel right. I think what as I say, Rassie can come up with some strange stuff at times. But if you think back to the 2019 World Cup, the mall that they formed in the middle of the park as well, that worked quite well. So he'll come up with something. What exactly it is, I don't know. But Rassie lives for these sort of weeks, where all the spotlight's on him and what's he going to do, and he relishes. I remember in his first year when he went to New Zealand, and I think they won in Wellington by a point to the Herschel Yankees try. That whole week, then lost to Australia the week before, and the whole week he started talking about, well, if we lose again, maybe I should resign.
That's right.
And we were always, as journalists, we were always like, what's the guy talking about? He hasn't been in the job that long, and it just he sort of took all the attention away from the team that week and just put it on himself, and he does stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to a very interesting week. I think it's going to be very entertaining. And just on the other point about, I think the one nice thing about this year's Rugby Championship is that the fact that Argentina and Australia have become so competitive. They're going to be a great curtain raiser to this game earlier in the day, and certainly neither South Africa or New Zealand, once we get past these two games, has an easy run to the title, because Argentina are going to be tough for the Springboks, and they've beaten the Springboks before. They beat them last year. And Australia look a lot more competitive, or they haven't won Bledders, though. They'll be quite fueled by that sort of stat as well. So
they'll be well up for it.
It's great. It's really looking like the next great month of rugby ahead for us.
Let me just go back to 2019, and as we get obsessed with box kicks and aerial combat and things, I remember, and it was actually only afterwards when I think it was Wayne Smith actually explained it to me about a month later. I was there watching the semi-final, the final, just as England and the South Africans were warming up, and one of the things that the Springboks were doing was they were just box kicking for about 45 minutes. And the English coaches were sitting there and they were watching them as they were warming up, and obviously got into their heads that this was going to happen. And I think if you go back through the tape, the first one came at 59 minutes. And what it actually did was it just put this false thought into the heads of those English players, and they set their defensive line back because they were waiting for these box kicks. They never happened. And so you had that kind of 10-metre area behind the advantage line, or the ruck, if you will, and South Africa just exploited that. And then when the first one came, it was kind of like, hang on a second, weren't we expecting this right from the start? So I'm just mentioning that because you're mentioning tactics and whether or not he's going to try something new. And I just wonder whether or not, our guys remember back to that, because maybe we might not see what we think we might see.
And that would be on par for Rassie, because he's that type of guy. I remember in 2019 with the Wales semi-final, he sort of told us, Wales are the type of team that tie us down in the trenches, and be careful. Don't expect a wonderful game. And we all sort of went through, and the Boks squeaked past Wales in that game at the Damien Delenda try, and then got to the final. And I must admit, I'm a guy who never sort of would predict a huge win for the Springboks in a World Cup final, because they're just tight games normally. And I was a bit worried, and he basically said to us, "Don't worry, this week we've got it. We know what we've got against England. We know what we're going to play." And they played, as you say, a totally different game plan. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out with that. But I think that's the intrigue in this game, is that you don't get many coaches like Rassie Erasmus in this world. Characters, and it's good to see them come up with something new. Of course, Scott Robertson doesn't. I mean, I don't know him that well. As a Crusaders coach, he was great to deal with.
He really is.
As an All Black coach, he seems like a hell of a nice guy, but he also the pressure of this job is very different. And I saw it with Heineke Meyer as well. Great Bulls coach, took them to Super Rugby titles, and when you go to the Bok job, it just, that level of pressure just ramps up. And there's guys who thrive on it, and there's guys who don't. So Rassie loves it. He thrives on every moment of it, and he enjoys every single moment of that.
This is the great thing about the narrative, isn't it? And I was just thinking that as you're saying that, look, we've got so much to talk about over the next 7 or 8 days. There are just so many angles to this, and then it's not just the players on the pitch, it's these two coaches as well. It's the mindset of these coaches. And already this week, we've started looking at stats and numbers. And, Scott Robertson, 19 tests, he's lost 5 of them. Ian Foster, the first 19 tests, he lost 4 and drew 1. And then Fozzie absolutely copped it. And so you're exactly right. This kind of stuff now is something that, as an All Black coach, even if you prepare yourself for it, I don't think you can prepare yourself for it. The scrutiny of the nation, the fact that everywhere you go, you can't even go and get your gas in your car without somebody making a comment about it. And this will be in his mind as well. And I think half of the battle probably, and I'm just assuming this, mate, is to be able to clear your thoughts, remove all of that, because they always say they don't hear the outside noise. They bloody do hear the outside noise. Of course, they're human beings, they do. And just get absolutely focused on what they have to do. It's a massive week for Razor. Look, if we lose this test match, it doesn't mean he's a bad coach, and it doesn't mean that his job's in trouble. I don't believe any of that. It's just, that's the kind of stuff we talk about on this side of the microphone, because, we're just having chats and things. But I do think that it's a real landmark moment for him, if I can say that.
I think so too. I mean, look, he's, as I say, he was great to deal with it at the Crusaders. And your point about a coach not being a bad coach, I mean, Eddie Jones is the perfect example. The same Eddie Jones that lost 92-3 as the Reds coach against the Bulls at Loftus Versfeld is the same coach that beat the Springboks with Japan. So sometimes the environment just doesn't work. Sometimes you're just unlucky and you get a couple of injuries, and something at the bounce of the ball goes wrong. So I feel for coaches in that, because you've got absolutely no control when that happens, when you're sitting in the coach's box. And I think for Razor it is a big one, because the Springboks do come with quite an aura, this Springbok team in particular, having beaten the All Blacks now 4 times in a row. It's one of those. Sorry, Marty, I had to say that. I mean, that's going to be a big part of the narrative in the next week. They want to break that. Of course, the record is the other thing that we're all going to be talking about. And I mean, these are the type of games all these coaches want to be involved in, and they want to win these ones. They can say what they like. They'll tell you they don't look at social media. They don't. Their wives do. Their families do. And I'm sure, and I've seen it with players. I'm sure it's the same with coaches. When they alone on the bus, they're scrolling through the phones. They see those things, and it's natural. And they're all human, so it does affect them.
Look, I mean, when you say that, just a little bit of background for the audience. Myself and Brenden, we've been mates we've been talking over more than 2 decades doing this. And I have been a shocker, mate, because as soon as we beat you for years, I've always, used to end conversations. And Brenden just say to us, I just need to hear it clearly. The All Blacks are the best team in the world, and you refused to say it. Even after 2015, you refused to say it. And I've been waiting for this, because I deserve it. I deserve to get it back. Look, at the moment, you've won 4 in a row. I don't care what has happened at Ellis Park. I don't care what's happened at Cape Town. You are the back-to-back world champions. We're after that scalp. Let's make, put all of that aside. Eden Park aside, we're after your scalp.
And that's fair, and that comes with that tag of being the number 1 team. That comes with the tag of being double world champions. The All Blacks had the same. I mean, 2015 when they won that, they won that 10th semi-final against the Boks there at Twickenham. I think there's one penalty that was turned around where the Boks had a kick at goal and it was turned around. The All Blacks got the kick and they kicked the goal, and that was the difference between the two teams in that night. And yeah, I mean, you can, as a South African fan, you can say everything you want about that, whether it was the right decision or all these things. Point is, the All Blacks went on and won the World Cup. They took the trophy. They got the tour around and all the pictures and all the plaudits. That's what you get for that. And then you get teams coming for you. And I think that's something South Africa is. We've been good at World Cups. We haven't always been so great between World Cups. And this team's been trying to do that. They've got a lot more success than other Springbok teams that have won World Cups. But yeah, I think I said to you last week, this is the holy grail for us. I mean, playing the All Blacks at Eden Park, there's no other place you want to beat the All Blacks. We've got a good record in Wellington, and I know the next week Wellington's coming. That game almost feels, at this moment, a bit more insignificant because this first game, this first 80 minutes is what counts. And I tell you, it'll probably be seen as, in South Africa, it'll probably be seen as one of the biggest, on par with probably a World Cup victory, if they can break that record of the All Blacks at Eden Park. And that's saying something. And I mean, this is the holy grail for the Springboks at the end of the day. And that's why I think there's so much tension in South Africa about this game, because, we're confident. We'll back the Springboks 100%. But I think any South African fan you speak to, and not those that send you mailbag letters, I saw that on the other night, every Springbok fan will say to you they're a bit nervous about this game, and rightly so.
We got a week to go, mate. So it's a week tomorrow. And are you going to be watching this? You're going to get up live, and so time for you is what? About 7? No, about what time? What time is it in the morning when you're watching it?
9 o'clock in the morning, which is a very strange time to watch a rugby game.
That's for Argentina. That's what we were getting. So you get up, you have some breakfast. It's a crazy time to watch a game of rugby. It's a really great time to watch a game of rugby.
Yeah, and especially with, I mean, most people go watch it in pubs, and I mean, if you're at home, it's the same. Then you 2 hours later, and you've had 6 beers down, and now suddenly it's only at 12 o'clock, and you're going to get through the rest of the day.
Then you grab one of these things.
Africans are stuck.
You grab one of these things, and you go crazy on it, Brenden. That's what you do after that, don't you? Bring it, people. We love it. We love the engagement. Yeah. We love the comments. Come on.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's the nicest to sit and. We don't get the opportunity that often to do it because we're working a lot of the times at the stadiums. But there's nothing nicer than sitting and watching a big game like this. Yeah, I was in 2023 at the final. I ended up watching it in the strangest of places, my best mate's 50th birthday party in Mauritius, and I sat there, which is also 2 hours ahead. So it was like the game started at midnight, and it was a very strange situation. But there's nothing better than watching it with your mates, a couple of beers, and cheering on whichever team you support. Yeah, this is the biggest game in world rugby this year. They can tell us later in the year, France, South Africa, or whatever. This is the biggest game.
DSPN.